thinking about it though. I'm like,
Swear this track not a diss, just wear it if the shoe fits. If the shoe fits, lace 'em up quick. Run away, run away, run away. Swear this track not a diss, just wear it if the shoe fits. Hold up, everybody woke. Hold up, everybody getting smoked. Hold up, everybody woke. Damn, hold up, everybody getting smoked. People crying, feel woke, really get slapped. People really want clout, talking out their neck. Everybody think they woke till they meet death. Back to sleep, murk 'em all till there's none left. You was the life of the party till I stepped in it. Kill 'em all dead, no breath in it. I'm the watcher of the east, don't question it. They wanna be the new yay, no west in it. Flow syphilis, niggas can't mess with it. They was self-righteous, now they left with it. They say a lot, but it's shallow, no breath in it. Them boys new jacks, no depth in it. Capricorn moon, got death in it. Touch your soul, now it's mine, I collected it. Everybody wanna ball, everybody know it all. Everything they wanna say, nothing that they know it all. Hold up, everybody woke. Hold up, everybody getting smoked. Everybody want heaven till they get their soul toked. Open up my death note, it was murder that she wrote. Welcome to Oppression Olympics. Everybody pandering now, you can't miss it. We all autistic, and yes, he could wear that dress. He's no misfit, now we all critics. White is the new black now, can you dig it? They say black people too homophobic to get it. They say trans people are really just pretending, but death say you all want people, that's who we ended. Yeah, it ain't really that deep. Sweat it's not a diss track, just wear it if the shoe fits. If the shoe fits, lace 'em up quick. Sweat it's not a diss track, just wear it if the shoe fits. Hold up, everybody woke. Hold up, everybody getting smoked. Hold up, everybody woke. Damn, hold up, everybody getting smoked. People crying, feel woke, really get slapped. People really want clout, talking out their neck. Everybody think they woke till they meet death. Back to sleep, murk 'em all till there's none left.
Hey, this is not a diss. Never mind, wait.
Yes, it is.
This to all the fucking losers who want me to talk delicate on my First Amendment shit, brasher than I ever been. The rhetoric still heaven sent. Hey, why I feel like Naruto with a beast inside me. Gotta tame it if I'll ever find the peace inside me. Keep a peace beside me, I know that the streets is grimy. Venice Beach where the gangsters meet the seas where I be. But I'm not banging, I'm just hanging, trying to play some ball. Having thoughts about death, it's like this every fall. I just focus on my breath, keep keeping close to God. Sending prayers for the homies who still here and gone. Times are changing, I can feel it in me. I'm shining brighter every day and I can see the envy. Manifesting plenty with these thoughts I jot that's positive and catchy. Real reflection, do it right and lefty. Ambidextrous, staying calm and ready. Extra grounded, but the bars is heady. Yeah, and I just count my blessings. Knowing what I have right now is what they said far-fetched is. Hey, eat these rappers for breakfast. I didn't even write that down. Walker.
welcome to your Venus in Aquarius 2026 transit talk. This is your host, the Peace Dealer, Master of Ceremony. All right. Welcome to another transit talk. We back. We brought the series back. I hope to expand on it. But yeah, we're going to very quickly talk about this Venus transit through Aqua. This is a stellium we will all remember. The moon is on Jupiter near Jupiter in Cancer. Did I do that? And yeah, Saturn is on its way out of Pisces, 28 degrees. And this is one of the final points of this journey through Aquarius season. I am here to break down the space meteorology and to give you my interpretation of the language these angles are forthcomingly expressing. I just wanted to say those words. So please feel free to take this interpretation and do with it what you want. Edit it, add to it, subtract it. It really is what it is. Okay. Um, what is a major point of contention here and the elephant in the room is Hades at 3 degrees, Pluto. Right now, Venus is in the second decan. And the theme we're going through this is awakening a new era of partnerships, given that in about 6 months, when we've activated all of the subsequent pillars of this transit of this year, really, um, we will have already have stepped into through late March of Saturn and Aries, the new world, aka the new era. So, oh wow. Ahead of time, what we are witnessing right now are the seeds, the crucial, the crucial seeds. Thank you. Being planted right now, collectively. New narratives, new conspiracy theories, all sorts of goodness are being planted that add on to this 20-year cycle of human corruption and awakening, albeit it might be more corruption. But that being said, it is going to be revolutionary nonetheless. And I mean revolutionary in all senses, that it expresses itself through industrial revolutions and social revolutions. Okay. So in 6 months, Venus is going to be in Virgo, and its transit through Aquarius before 6 months from now, when we're going to be analyzing how what we know now actually operates real time in complex social situations. While our awareness in Leo will quite literally be on stage. That's where we debut 6 months from now. But as you can see, now that we are in Aquarius, and before that, Uranus and Gem, Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, Pluto, Aqua, those are the pillars of the new era. That is what defines this new world we're stepping into. Saturn coming out of a 30-year cycle since 95, Pluto since the 1700s, late 1700s, Neptune since the late 1800s. We doing the damn thing. All right. And what I want to symbolize with Venus, whether it plays out exactly or literally like so, what I want to play out symbolically with Venus is her symbolic slash supposed representation of partnerships. We can even say love. I like to think of Venus like the feminine side of sexuality, whereas Mars is the masculine side. And then love would really be more the sun, that is this agape conscious light. But we could see Venus as love as well. We could see Venus in that sexual frame as romantic love and as really giving and receiving pleasure. Okay. So another working analogy of Aquarius is if this was a movie and Leo was the lead role and Aries is the villain and Taurus is the producer, well, Aquarius is the narrator, but we could also say the writer. I like to think Gemini is comic relief, but is also like a co-writer. But Aquarius could really oversee the writing staff. This is the narrator in the movie that breaks the fourth wall because they're outside of the plot, but they're still in the movie. I literally just broke down every Aquarius you ever know. But that being said, um, this is you writing the grand plan with everyone else before 6 months in Leo, where we're on stage performing what you wrote right now. Uh, in Aries, a lot of this knowledge you're going to shape through your character, through Gemini, where you're going to literally write the thoughts and the lines, and then you're going to feel it in Cancer, perform it in Leo and Libra. And this is the cycle we do every year. Now, relative to this year, we have Hades. We talked about 2008 to 2024, where Hades was in Capricorn. And Capricorn was effectively like someone who had the most toxic, abusive roommate. Look at Capricorn now that their roommate has left. Like they're so much more peaceful. They're so much more open. This is such a fucked up joke. They're so much more comfortable with their emotions. They're not the same people. Any Capricorn can co-sign that for me. I would hope. I mean, toxic roommate. It was good at first, and then you just couldn't wait for them to leave. And now they're with Aquarius. But Aquarius is a little bit different and may not have the same relationship like Capricorn did. In fact, Hades is hosting a party uh, with all these placements here. And if we go back maybe a couple of weeks, Venus was actually the first whore. I'm just joking. That was horrible. Venus was actually the first one to cross through the Venus threshold. Whore. Sorry, that's what Mars said. Venus was the first to rub up on Pluto before Mercury shortly followed. As you can see, she crossed the finish line first, which is a great omen. You could tell a lot about the omen for the year, and this is pure speculation. I'm literally just making this up, but you could tell a lot about the nature of the year if Venus crosses into the Pluto finish line first, or Mars. It's either going to be Mars and then Venus, because of Mars's retrograde once every 2 years, and then Venus once every 2 years. Mars usually leads, and then Venus and Mars. So this year we had Venus, and that's going to make this a very amazing, love-filled. That's a lie. Venus in Aquarius is actually the 5 of Swords. So this is brace yourself, guys. But that being said, who knows how that will play out for the rest of the year. Aquarius knows, and that's why now this conjunction in Aquarius of these collective celestials that represent all the knowledge that exists within a construct, well, actually outside a construct, because Aquarius is out of this world. Anyway, this is where when the sun entered Aquarius season, we have officially activated this cycle. Okay, now, is it the first year we activated this cycle? Maybe, not really. No, maybe, but regardless. Yeah, I would say maybe, because the last time it was out of Capricorn. But regardless, once again, even if it wasn't, we could have done it last year. This cycle of conjunction every 3 months is going to, of course, shift its significance. So 3 months from now, in a month from now, when it's in Pisces, we'll be manifesting that. That's the Taurus signature. The seeds we sowed in Aquarius now produce the imagination aligned with what knowledge you are awakening that is being applied into your beliefs around, well, love. I'm going to use love because it's one syllable, but I don't want to keep saying feminine sexuality and you're giving and receiving. Okay. Then in Aries, boom, we're now shaping the identity of how you take this knowledge and take action that reflects passionately your identity through the application of your beliefs, right? Venus in a okay. I know who I am, and I'm going to reflect that in my partnerships. And then I start to believe that in Pisces, like, oh, this is what it could be like. And then I apply those beliefs in Aries. I'm now like taking action as this. And that's where in Taurus, we have the first phase. We start to integrate on fertile soil in its dignity. Venus on Uranus, which some people will say is a twin flame connection, square to Pluto and Aquarius, is now the first point of integration at the beginning of Taurus. I just don't want to rewind the weeks. So that it's going to trine in Gemini. Okay. It's probably going to skip into Cancer. Oh, does it retrograde this year? It's going to trine in Gemini, right? And fully express the heart. It's going to integrate in Cancer, Two of Cups. Now, develop this nurturing intensity of feeling and taking into part all these attributes and getting ready to tie it together. All right. And mind you, that's just how it is based on this Pluto cycle. We can base another cycle here on Aries. It's going to be squaring that from when it activates in Aries. But based on the Pluto cycle, which we're using to represent this awakening into a new era, okay, boom shakalaka Johnson. Once it's in Leo opposite Pluto, now it's finally breaking through. And that's going to now shift us into the next phase, where by this point, everything that you are awakening, that you are stepping towards, you're now fully performing here in Leo. You're now expressing it socially. This is what's going to harvest the results. And in knowing that, okay, that's what brings to more of a significance to, well, what is actively occurring now? What seeds are you sowing now? Okay. And now that I've broken down the math, now that I've broken down the angles, once again, however you want to take that interpretation, you can. This is the one constant I can give you. Like, the way I interpret these, we can say is subjective, but the one thing that is objective is that these are the points that are happening during these dates. Nobody can argue with that. That is the one factual basis. Now we can get into arguments around, oh, these into this angling this doesn't mean that. That's an entire more subjective interpretive argument, but we know that this is what's going to be happening. Boom. All right. So now we've established that the conjunction is activating this cycle. The activation of this cycle, to me, represents planting seeds. And to anyone who also shares in that interpretation, from what I learned as well, that being said, we're planting these seeds in celestial Aquarius. So this isn't like a Taurus cycle where you're through your own physical senses establishing planting of seeds in probably the most grounded, practical way. This is representing higher minded collective narrative concepts. Okay, so when you're planting these seeds, which represents a collective sense of everything also occurring and doing this as well, which now we're experiencing this as a collective run-on sentence, you're not entirely going to see these. You're not going to process these in a physical, empirical way versus a causal way, right? There is physical evidence we'll see through this transit as we have the Earth placements, align with this, like the moon that went through Taurus and later on in Taurus season. But that's the first thing, as Saturn comes out of Pisces and we're closing out this faith test. Until we 90-degree square in Taurus and break those seeds through the ground, it's like any time you plant seeds. When you plant the seeds, there is an element of faith that the seed you're watering, you're letting the sunshine go through, that seed is going to break through the ground, right? Then when it breaks through the ground, it's eventually going to grow and finish. But there is that space between the soil, the seed, the soil, and that flat point, the ground, where that seed has to break through the soil in the middle and then finally break through the ground. That's the first 90 degrees of any cycle. All right. And now taking that concept and aligning it in this quadrant of the zodiac, which is going to be more abstract, which is going to be not necessarily as physical, right? If you think about your beliefs, epistemology, your sense of identity, you can't really like you could touch your face, but the sense of how you I am your way through life, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that that's physical until we get to Taurus, which now represents the physiology of our very existence, or I just want to say existence, but our bodies, our senses, right? This slowing down of energy and matter, probably. So, this Venus transit is opposing my sixth house. Would I see it in a mundane way? Great question. You can actually see any transit, mundane or supernaturally. So I don't want to necessarily trick you into thinking because it's the sixth house, it automatically makes it mundane. But the opposing to your sixth house is influencing your 12th house. And yeah, that's definitely going to take into account everything you did while it was in your sixth house and now complete that shift in perspective and bring up your unconscious habits. Okay. And yeah, that being said, I'm glad you asked that. For those of you who would like to join the workshop in 30 minutes, okay, I'm going to pull tarot to break down for each sign how Venus is going to affect your rising sign and or your sun sign. Okay, so for those of you who are school members, we're going to do that. We're going to jump there after here. And for those of you who would like a live reading, you want me to look at Venus and Aquarius in your chart, you can join the queue down below. Just click the description box and I got you. Okay, so now in once again establishing that we do have this Venus conjunction looking very beautiful here. It is the second of its kind. We're going to have more of these moving forward. And it's very powerfully, or should I say, extraordinarily preparing for you every time it goes through this cycle to peel a deeper layer of the onion off of your heart relative to not just what you love and who you love and even why you love, but the knowledge around or how the knowledge you compile or how everything you know shapes your heart. So we can look at Pluto like that. We can look at Pluto as just like a EMP or just a deep blast that now in sowing this cycle, judgment card awakens, all right, what in this sense of Aquarius you further know. And now since this is activating, unlike just a Venus and Aquarius transit with nothing in Aquarius, this is going to shape this transit that we see has started around the 18th of January and will actively be activating relevant knowledge that's going to shape what your heart continues to know. This is now where we want to apply this aspect, and this is my interpretation of this aspect. So it's not just like activating. What seeds you're sowing is an active realization of how you are transforming a lot of your demeanor and position in life and in your relationships. Now, let's put this into perspective. We, since March of 2025, have completed an entire cycle. Like Venus has gone through all of the zodiac. So at this stage of awakening this knowledge, it's taking into account what this previous year in Venus cycle taught you, what lessons you have learned from people in and out of love, what you have, of course, how your heart has shaped relative to what boundaries you draw with other people. And most importantly, because we'll eventually have the completion to the square to Uranus, how this is getting ready to complete the innovation of the types of partnerships you step into. Now let's make this super weird and super sci-fi. Because once again, Pluto and Aquarius is involved, and because we had the Uranus conjunction Taurus early in the year, the theme of these relationships coming out of an old world and into a new world are examining with the South Node in social signs a departure of old narratives and a departure of all the old BS you've ever been taught about with, how men and women are supposed to behave together. All this like red pill, blue pill, black pill, tea, all this BS, right? That really is done more to confuse people than help people and rage bait people. And I don't mean solely on the internet as it exists in real life relative to traditions that have been established for literal centuries. All that is being thrown in the dumpster. And you are, through this Pluto gate, shedding literally everything that doesn't represent who you truly are. It's activating now this extraordinary and supernatural level of knowledge. This is what makes this very weird, especially for those of you who are awakening to a facet of yourself that is outside of the boundary of what is colloquially and or commonly, same word, accepted in the box of understanding in your relative society. Translation. Even if to others it's retarded as fuck, like just completely delusional. And this is where you're less able to, it is increasingly difficult to deviate and to separate who you truly are within yourself versus the mask you put out socially towards other people. Not impossible. And it doesn't mean that there won't be an entire new generation of people who like now patch it and find out ways to just mask things. But this is definitely, I don't want to say clear separation. This is definitely going to mark a highly unique transition out of certain themes into a new world and theme. Okay. So all right. So yeah, with that being said, this activation happening at the end of this cycle, one is also going to feel like watching a movie, an epic movie, and at the end of the movie, after the climax and after the resolution has occurred, and you're seeing what everyone has been rewarded with from an entire movie of plot development and conflicts that had to have been resolved post resolution. At the end of a movie or the end of an episode, you're going to see what each character was rewarded with, right? Or the opposite. So imagine you're watching that part and then boom, you get hit with new information. This is what makes it unorthodox, because normally exposition happens at the beginning of a story, but sometimes you can get last minute exposition. No, for real. You can get last minute exposition. Pisces is going to represent like the end of the movie that's either going to have an after credit scene, or it's going to be like the villain who you thought was dead and then they open their eyes, right? And now it makes you wonder, oh wow, what's the ultimate meaning? What's going to happen next, right? Or it could just be a cold cut ending and then you have the credits. But this activation throughout this transit is going to be downloading or uploading knowledge actively that you will be breaking through in 6 months. Because this is now a part of a cycle that throughout the next 6 months, Venus is going to go on Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's going to go on Uranus at the very end of Taurus before they enter Gemini, which is very interesting. So Venus is the only planet that's going to activate that final part again, where every planet is going to end up meeting Jupiter, unless, Mercury must retrograde. And then Jupiter and Leo, right? That is a new era. So what Pluto ahead of time is doing is it is awakening heightened sensitivity around matters and issues of your heart that, of course, are preparing for you to now release all of the old through Pisces and step into the new. Now, this has an infinite level of application. If I can name a few, and I mean a few, that could look like changing the type of people you talk to, talking to the same type of people, but changing the way you talk to these people, completely operating with a new library of knowledge that can bring light to maybe old ways you used to operate, and now open up new ways. Let me give you an extreme example that for some of you watching won't be extreme, but maybe your real life day to day. We have Mars, we have Mercury as well. So now this is cluster fucking a lot of collective vibrations that could just feel like nonstop telepathic warfare. And yes, they are visual and auditory hallucinations and possible schizophrenia. It should feel really weird. Now, that being said, this can go from approaching dating like you're in a society and you're getting to know individuals, and you're now expressing your own self to get to know another individual. And a transit like this can now awaken the knowledge of what you're really doing. And you realize, oh shit, we're in a land controlled by reptilian aliens, and some of these people are shapeshifters. And it's like, wow, if I were to date who's a shapeshifter, how am I going to know who's who? They would have to recognize, like, really weird, extreme, and crazy. Okay. It's I wanted to give that example because the jump from one to another, right, is severely extreme. It's not necessarily like a natural step. There's a very very extreme level of revelation that is going to make you fully aware, that consolidates and compounds past experiences into a newer understanding and a higher knowing. Okay. And that's the very most important thing. I'd rather not be aware of these things. So when you become fully aware of them, just like that, this is what's going to now really begin the process of awakening into what this new era will begin to feel like. And remember, this conjunction is happening at 3 degrees. We're not going to be at the end of the sign until 2040. So this is like the next 20-year era we're quite literally getting ready to define. And this part of this 20-year era is literally opening the door into the new world. That's the most important concept I really want to drill in this video, because it's very easy for you to take everything you have experienced in relationships up into this point and subconsciously project and apply that to new situations you are going to step into this year. And this Venus in Aquarius is going to dead that immediately. This Venus Aquarius is going to activate a new set of knowledge that's going to quintessentially change everything you believe as it goes into Pisces. Most important thing I can illustrate right now. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So as you are aiding this activation of knowledge, you really want to align with your heart this knowledge of yourself, everything that's been revealed about who you know you are and what you know you are. And as this aligns, this will also attract, or at the very least reflect, resonant frequencies who also, connect with your soul wavelength. That being said, the first decan of this transit, as we can see, is going to bring in the party. So Venus Aphrodite did not arrive fashionably late. She was the first to arrive to the function. Very suspect. And then, of course, Mars came in after everyone was in the party. And boom, by the time Venus makes it into the second decan, we have Mars that is now officially humping Pluto. Okay. Now, in the second decan, what we see, this phase occurs during the activation of the new moon in Capricorn. So, as the moon gets ready to go full, Mercury in the second decan, subruled by Mercury, begins to overtake Venus. And as the fastest orbiting planet, it passes her by. Now, what we'll begin to see with this Venus transit are the subsequent aspects that it begins to make to the outer planets that we're completing our cycles with. The first, of course, namely Jupiter, okay, which now coming into the 30th and the 31st of January, as the moon goes over Jupiter. This is very important because now this initially enacts the closing quincunx of the Scorpio signature of the 210-degree angle Mercury, Venus, and subsequently the Sun and Mars are making to Jupiter. This is going to happen tomorrow. And now, if we take into the account that at some point Venus did conjunct Jupiter, think I'm lying? Let me show you. Not exactly, but this is what happened 6 months ago. 6 months ago, Venus conjuncted Jupiter in Cancer. We activated it. We strengthened it through Leo, which now represented an evolution of how our hearts are polishing our sense of beauty and what we feel much more intimately, our capacity to feel much deeper now that we're getting ready to pretty much imagineer a new concept for the integrity of ourselves and the accountability and authority that comes with identifying who we are, blah, 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 astrological jargon. So as Venus activated this cycle, we strengthened it in Leo. We gained an analytical sense of shaping the behavior of this psychic evolution. We then socially balanced how our individual feelings can integrate in social spaces. So with this balance, we're not too emotional, but we're also not too unemotional, having the right sense of compassion and empathy without being too empathic. And then with this balance, we fully express the extreme depth of these feelings through Scorpio, and it got witchy and it got dark. And then we had the higher vision through Sagittarius around how this higher meaning of this process integrates with what we began to feel, since we're anchoring it with Jupiter. This is where Venus started to catch up. And of course, we then broke this through in Capricorn, where now we have this hyper practical decision making, organization defining harvest of what we can do and use with everything we activated and integrated. Okay. And now we're bridging the individual to the universal, the collective, which now makes a lot of this harvest more meaningful. And now that we are applying this direction through Capricorn and Aquarius, the extreme awakening and intensification of this cosmic energy, this knowledge that through our brain processing, through our private parts of desire, through our conscious awareness, and through our hearts, we are now applying this knowledge, this awakening of knowledge, to transform what we feel. Hence, this is very much so a trigger point. This is that trigger point where it's like, you know something and what you felt about it before is no longer the same. Like finding out someone you have a crush on has an STD. That's a horrible example. Or finding out that maybe you have deeper feelings for someone than you initially had the capacity to, in light of expanding how much more you can feel and now coming into new knowledge. because this is a 210-degree angle of Scorpio of transformation. This is the middle part of the harvest stage. What's going to happen is the knowledge that's transforming what we feel, when all this goes into Pisces, it's going to give us the perception of why we're imagining what we're imagining. And that perspective of our imagination in Pisces is going to guide what we're feeling. So now it's like, oh, that's the imaginary vision that now strengthens or empowers what we're already feeling. And so it's this knowledge, this harvest that's going to transform what we're feeling. And now that's what makes the next couple of days very interesting, because now in starting this 30-degree transit from the middle of Aquarius to the middle of Pisces, this is going to really account for the expansion of Jupiter, and you, with the trailing awareness of the sun, may process with Mercury and be aware of how your relationships are transforming. And I wouldn't even say your relationships, but the way you are increasingly feeling about this, because Pluto's involved. This could be dark for some of you. This could be feeling jaded, whether anything external happened to you or not. For others of you, this could feel very blissful. Of course, the transit itself doesn't determine what it feels like to you, versus just knowing what these angles are doing, regardless of how you are choosing to feel, or at least, processing through all of this. I want to word this the way I am, because a trigger like Jupiter in this capacity, now that we're breaking through, is going to further strengthen the quality of what you're harvesting. And I think it's very important to once again highlight how significant this Jupiter conjunction really was, and not necessarily pussyfoot over the square with Saturn and Neptune and the importance of that cycle. So now that we've broken through Capricorn, Aquarius is going to take this to a more intense level. And of course, do decans matter? They can. Decans definitely will give you a different idea. Like, for example, Venus and Mercury in the decan of Mercury, you could argue, or you could see it as now taking the first decan of Uranus that innovates what we begin to know. Now we're putting it into words, so that when it's in Venus, we're polishing the words we put it in, and we can present it at the highest, most polished level. That's my interpretation of decans. I encourage people to develop their own interpretation as well. But of course, once again, as it's transforming, beginning to transform Jupiter, this is like a boost, a Mario Kart boost that's going to really begin to kill what is not going to make it through and strengthen what does make it through. Okay. Now, all of this is aligned and under the guise of activating new knowledge with the new moon at the end of the cycle, but also with Pluto that is casting that shadow. All right. That at the end of Aquarius will now activate all of. All right. We could mention the semi-sextile, but I won't. So that being said, I think as we end January and go into February, this is going to begin to expand on this intensification. And if you're not doubling down at this point on who you know yourself to be and what type of relationships you're going to be investing in, you're going to be crossing these boundaries very willy-nilly. And it's going to allow all sorts of people to test your knowledge and walk all over you. Versus if you're very resolute on moving forward into February, what your boundaries are and what you'll entertain or not, this is going to take you to the exaltation of the heavenly Venus Pisces lands, where you will see what you've been feeling take shape and form. You're gonna imagine it, or it's going to really take the shape of your imagination. It's going to shape your beliefs, because while you're experiencing it form, or at least shift. Okay, so as we radically define this nolegio, we're going to have the sextile to Chiron, which, given its trans-Saturnian nature, is going to revisit this nature of self-healing. and how the development of these relationships, of course, greatly impact a lot of your own ego, as well as really define who it is you are around that reflects this, and also really challenge you in route to this Uranus square to accept the rewards of facets you might be insecure about. And this is definitely in now completing this Capricorn signature by the time we're 23 degrees Aquarius, going to take certain unique quirks. They're going to take certain like idiosyncrasies you might have been insecure about and see how they've always been a strength, a power for you. And this is where, in shifting your knowledge around these dynamics, which you'll see in your relationships with people, these reflect more in your relationships. And now let's get to the real main event, or the cherry on top. As Mercury goes into Pisces and Uranus goes direct, we will simultaneously have the semi-sextile with Mercury and Saturn. But more importantly, before the Venus semi-sextile, we will have the square between Venus and Uranus. Now, the Venus Uranus square is definitely very significant because what Mercury and what Venus are doing ahead of time is wrapping our brains around the process. It's coding your brain processor to already wrap your mind around these concepts. And then Venus is polishing, editing and polishing and making smooth what your brain is spearheading. So that when our conscious awareness, when the sun crosses this point, we're fully aware of what our brains and hearts are already, connected to, in line with, and it sets up the new moon in Aquarius that's going to activate everything Aquarius has been setting up since the new moon in Capricorn. Okay. I think what's also going to be very significant is this resistance that people have towards what they don't know, and what they against what they believe, that are going to be completely demolished and really shape the nature through which you apply innovation in these moments. Venus also is a really good representation of value, given its rulership to Taurus, and aesthetic with Libra, but it's not too far off to align with money and finances. So the previous Venus Uranus conjunction in Taurus, by the time it makes it to Aquarius through Scorpio that it opposed, we are finally completing this cycle, which now coming into the 8th, 9th of February is going to mark completion of breakthrough that you may increasingly experience in the form of your finances, in the form of financial opportunities and gifts, and in how many of you can innovate your current income situation. And you can do that by getting this course for me from $567. No, but you can definitely do that by not letting anybody play you or gaslight you out of what it is you already know. Mainly because what you have pioneered or innovated go expressly against ethics, beliefs, or traditions of other people, coming out of an old world where near all of it is going to be made completely obsolete, y'all. Okay. So with that being said, that's pretty much how we end Venus in Aquarius. We're going to have the semi-sextile in Pisces to Saturn, and then Venus and Mercury will effectively be in Pisces, kicking off the exalted chapter, which is going to take everything you are activating in terms of the knowledge of your heart and what radical insight that comes with, to now producing the experience that comes with this programming mentally. But now imaginatively, metaphysically, abstractly, and supernaturally. It's the stuff of legend, quite literally. So that's what we got as far as uh, the angles. Um, I think what you'll really experience and witness through a lot of the this dynamic is now a very abrupt shift into the type of people you start to attract in your life, and a beginning of a new approach relative to how you give love, and especially relative to the love you are willing to receive. More unconventionality in the nature of relationships that go against traditionally defined structures, honoring of old traditional structures in innovative, fresh ways, whether progressive or not. Okay. And a whole lot of fuckery. Now, this is the opposite of drama that we have here in Leo. So, if we take the tarot interpretation literally, which doesn't have to take place, but if you want to, Venus in Aquarius is the Five of Swords. So, there is huge potential for a lot of rude, scattered minds, miscommunication, people having all sorts of empty victories, not listening to what the other people said because they just want to have the last word and just, get the stuff off their chest that they want to get off their chest. So at the end of the day, nobody's really, healed anything. People have just yelled at each other. This could represent a more intense, extreme portion of this. Mercury is also in Aquarius, which is the card after Five of Swords. So we can have this remediation, and we can also have this sense of problem solving. A dynamic like this isn't really going to favor you unless you're extremely petty. So if you're not extremely petty, you definitely don't want to fall for any rage bait during this period, and take what is being hurled at you as more data, as more feedback from you, just as reactions from you being you. Okay. If you're extremely petty like me, you're going to talk back, and you're going to have back and forths that are going to lead to incredibly empty victories. But because you're extremely petty like me, you're going to be standing on your own like, ha, yeah, I told you I'm undefeated. And you really don't care if anything is solved because you just do it for the love of the game at this point. And you're not going to have nobody talk to you a certain way. Okay. I'm assuming you respect yourself a lot more than that. So you're just not going to engage in stuff like that. Some of you know who you are, and you're mature, but you're not that mature, and you're going to give that person 8 paragraphs in real time, in real life. And I see you. But not everyone has to do that. Do not fall for the bait. Only do this if you're committed. If you're committed to calling everyone the B word, and denigrating their IQ or intelligence, and going back and forth with people who don't even really know what they're saying, like you may or may not, but you're just saying it out of pride and ego, that's the only reason why you're going to fall for the bait. Once again, I have a lot of time on my hands. I can do shit like that. You may not. So just be careful of how you can unravel and unfold situations to reveal more of how other people truly think, or what their actions really mean. And just take what occurs as feedback. All right. And that's going to really enable you to gain a lot more insight that sows these seeds properly. Now, for good news, I do see that miracles are in the works. Miracles. You get a miracle. Okay. You just need to believe, and everything is going to fall in your lap. You really just need to, there's nothing you need to do. What is occurring through this activation in alignment with the nodes? Because post July of this year, the North Node is going to go in Aquarius. And when the North Node goes into Aquarius, in a sign where celestials are awakening, aka Viltrumites, that plan to take over this world pretty much and subjugate all of the human population, this is going to align that quality with destiny. And there's going to be more of this supernatural, celestial, fated quality to your events. Right now, it's coming through the fog of Pisces. This is metaphysical, so it's nothing you could really see or quantify. Just kind of got to believe or have faith. And as this goes into Pisces, and this will align your beliefs with that sense of destiny or this extreme desire. If you look at Rahu as not destiny, but just extreme desire that guides you towards a place, which is probably more accurate to see that way. This sequence out of Aquarius is like the narrator talking to the audience, segueing connections that you in this program may not really even be aware of. The peace dealer, unaware, going into his transit talk, doesn't even know that in 3 months, somebody that is watching this stream, they may partner up and fight zombies. Like, I'm not aware of this while I'm talking. Like, that's why it's not the easiest to talk about this dynamic, because we're talking about a formation of connections spanning collectively that is outside of your physical living experience, but you align with relative to what you're thinking and telling yourself right now. Morgan Freeman has an aqua moon, so it probably already does sound like it. Oh God. So yeah, this is where, as it breaks through, integrates in Taurus, breaks through Leo, we start to individualize, and now be a lot more clear on what exactly this is, how this actually plays out. Okay. So, which sign is doing narration? The narrator, Aquarius. Any sign can do narration, I guess, but they'd be playing an Aquarius role. Just like any sign can be a critic, but they're playing a Virgo role. Virgo is the critic role at the very least. So that being said, yeah, that's my interpretation of Venus and Aquarius for 2026. The last thing I want to say is that the implementation and definition, Virgo's my 5th house. The implementation and definition of now your supernatural powers and ability. Venus is polishing the smoothness with which your brain can even process concepts outside of the empirical systems of logic you have been force-fed your entire life, for better or for worse. So this is definitely going to activate into Pisces the way you imagine this creatively and build on these concepts. Toggle programming inputs before you commit to them through Aries, where you'll be taking action to apply them. All right. And I think that's going to be very cool. So there is now a connection between this more cosmic potential and divine potential awakening in you that has always been awakening, but this is just at a more extreme level. So we're not talking about anything new, but just the next few phases of it. This is going to align with your partnerships. And the one question that I want to ask you is, when did you forsake yourself? And when did you decide to settle for less? When did you decide that you're at a certain level of development, but you can accept lower levels of development from other people who do not recognize you, who do not honor you, who don't even see you? Everyone is sharing this Kanye West quote. And so I'm going to hop on the bandwagon train because it does apply. And I'm paraphrasing, if you surround yourself with people who don't act like you are who you are, you're going to forget who you are. Are you still arguing back and forth with people about who and what you are? And it doesn't mean the conversation is about that. It means the actions you're taking, the beliefs you have that reflect this, they're still in contention. Are you trusting or opening your heart? Because you can still do all that with people. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but are you still entertaining these dynamics when it's we've had two I told you so tours coming out of the old world, right? Are you clear on that? Because this Venus transit will help you be clear on that. Nobody can make you do anything ultimately. So this is where you are quite literally pushing forward with this full knowledge, and it's going to be extreme and it's going to be unconventional. But unlike other people who fold, you crazy person, you didn't fold. That's basically it. You know who you are. You have connected with people who recognize you, whether they're big in number or not. Are you going to establish connections with people who don't recognize you? And if so, how? Are you going to give your power away to these beings? It's the most important part. Are you going to share power with those who do resonate and recognize you? And I don't mean like enable your echo chamber or bad habits. I mean, whether they challenge you in a very constructive capacity or align with you, they recognize you. They know who they're talking to, right? Very important. Because any partnerships that form during this period are forming based on that prerequisite of recognition. If you want to lay the cement with somebody who externally looks proper socially, right? But they don't engage with you as who you are, but as the idea of you that fits comfortably within a societal box with expectations, you can't blame anybody but yourself for sowing those seeds. See how I brought it back full circle? Oh, yo, this is a transit talk, baby. It's what you got in transit talk. So there you go. W stream. Type W stream in the comments. So that's it, guys. That's all I want to ask you. Because when we go into Pisces, this is going to be a washing machine portal into the new world. Like there's no turning back from this. And this is really like that awakening into the new era that's going to require grit, that's going to require this sense of honesty with yourself. Are you trading comfort with authenticity? Is maintaining authenticity an uncomfortable process for you? And maybe you are willing to trade authenticity in order to gain that comfort? Or are you a bad motherfucker who's not going to trade your authenticity for anybody, and you operate on a recognition only hey, I'm going to end this here. And then I'm going to hop over and do the workshop. You can watch the replay if you're a member. These things are time capsules, so you can also watch it later. But look, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Are y'all about to let muggles? Are y'all about to let muggles tell you who you are? Because a lot of you want to be with the fantasy partner. You want to be with the person who's doing spiritual stuff with you, but then you settle and you let muggle motherfuckers be toxic to you. You let people who don't know their moon sign or their chart ruler be abusive towards you. And I don't mean in the sense where they force it. I mean, you giving your time and energy and space to these people. You're going back. Maybe they'll understand it one day. You want to be with someone who is at your level spiritually, but you engaging with muggles. You unequally yoked. Now, you sexy muggles, you can get it. I'm just saying, is that what you really want? Is that what you really want? Are you giving in to peer pressure? Are you going back and forth with someone who doesn't even know the degree and sign of their moon sign? That's embarrassing, homie. That's embarrassing. You yelling with the illiterate. Now both of you look illiterate from the outside looking in. Okay, this is not the anti-muggle association. I'm just saying it could never be me, son. It could never be me, son. We are entering a new world. I'm not going to discriminate against muggle beings, but I damn sure ain't going to let them tell me who I am. I will never do that. I will listen or pretend to listen to what they're saying, understand where they're coming from, and say, damn, well, if only you knew your chart ruler. If you ever want to know your chart ruler, you can get a reading. You guys stay blessed as always, and peace. But that's just on my soul, on God, on my soul. I will never let a single muggle in this world tell me who I am. Buddy, you can't even perceive magic. You think coincidences exist and things happen at random. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. We fundamentally exist outside of your ability to quantify. Boom. That's just me. I want you to take that word moving forward. Hopefully that's you too. You do that, you're going to amazingly beast through this transit. Let's go.
I'm on, can't fuck with this rhyming I'm on. Seen them talk, now all of them gone. Seen that dog, I gave it a bone. They like, what is he on? On God, all you my sons. On God, I kill you for fun. On God, there can only be one. Call me Unc, now watch me walk it out. It's on sight, we blast, not talk it out. Kill you goofies, fuckers you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you talking about. 26-year-old dropout. Made 6 figures when I clocked out. Mama said, get my degree, got that with a breeze. Now I rock with my cock out.
Put it on God, put it on Jesus, put it on Yah, put it on Bezel, put it on Allah, put it on Reason, put it on I, put it on we, put it on God, put it on Shiva, put it on Ra, put it on Edith. See the facade and I leave it. Death isn't one, it'll come in a 3.
Another soul I'm out here slaying, another body out there decaying, another false god y'all obeying, another lie getting paraded. Live the truth, watch me demonstrate it. Showed you love even though you hate it. Know the day that your death is faded. I'll make sure that I never say it. Really, I'm not the one to play with. When I knock on that door, it's time to let go. Just give me your soul, I sever that cord, you lose the control. I'm racking up spirits, they racking up dough. Dealing that piece on the low. I cheat on my goals, my words really go. Got more than enough, but it's time to get more.
Put it on God, put it on Jesus, put it on Yah, put it on Bezel, put it on Allah, put it on Reason, put it on I, put it on we, put it on God, put it on Shiva, put it on Ra, put it on Eve. Facade and I leave it. Death isn't one, it'll come in a 3. Please just
call me Unc, now watch me walk it out. It's on sight, we blast, not talk it out. Kill you goofies, fuckers you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you talk about. 34-year-old tapped in, driver's seat, I'm strapped in. Serving all over your lane, I must be insane.
Hey.
Dying, I'm laughing.
put it on God, put it on Jesus, put it on Yah, put it on Bezel, put it on Allah, put it on Reason, put it on I, put it on we, put it on God, put it on Shiva, put it on Ra, put it on Edith. See the facade and I leave it. Death isn't one, it'll come in a 3.
Can't fuck with this time and I'm on. Can't fuck with this rhyming I'm on. Seen them talk, now all of them gone. Seen that dog, I gave it a bone. They like, what is he on? On God, all you my sons. On God, I kill you for fun. On God, it can only be